What's up, everybody? Isaac here, Civil Engineering Academy. Excited to be with you on another podcast episode today. Bring an awesome guest, Paul Rosowski. He actually lives in Wisconsin, graduated from University of Wisconsin, and works for a great company called Westwood. And in fact, just recently got a promotion to be a project manager. Anyway, we detail his journey into the world of civil engineering, how he earned his PE, because his exam experience is pretty interesting, and I think you'll want to listen to it if you're taking the construction depth exam. And I think by the time actually this comes out, the exam's going to be switched over as of April 1st, 2024 to the new format. So even though the exam has changed, the concepts of really how to take this exam really don't change over time. And so there's still a ton of valuable information. The other fun fact about him is that he was a walk-on on the football team there at University of Wisconsin. We'll find out how that ties into the work he does. Anyway, it's a great episode. Go check it out, and it's going to be coming up right after this. All right, we are live, rocking and rolling. PJ, what's going on? How's life?
Not too much. Just getting about 6 inches of snow right now. So
it's supposed to be spring.
We're open for it, but not yet. So.
Well, hey, welcome to the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. Excited that you've jumped on. And excited to get to know you better, but also how maybe we can help others out there listening to this stuff. So thanks for jumping on and doing this with me.
Yeah, no problem. Excited to be here, and I'm excited to talk with you. And just initial thought, I just want to say thank you, too, for all your help on my exam prep. It definitely put me in a good frame of mind, and felt confident going into the exam. So I just wanted to give you a quick shout out there.
Sweet. Yeah. We love that. We always love that. Well, why don't you describe maybe your journey up to this point as to, how did you find yourself into the civil engineering world, and then even touch on your journey with the PE exam a little bit. What was that experience like for you?
Sure. Yeah, so I guess I started off knowing I probably wanted to be in the engineering field relatively early, and specifically in the field that I'm in right now. But I guess in high school, I was always, pretty good at math, pretty good at science, and knew like I wanted to hopefully be able to apply that to, something where I could also be out in the field, but that also, kind of really deep dive into some technical aspects. Like the more I like to look into things, and the more that there kind of is to them, the more I'm intrigued by them. So something that kind of always has something over that next horizon has really intrigued me. But so kind of knew that right away, but then going to college, knew I kind of wanted to get into the renewable energy industry. And, there's kind of some overlapping classes that I was able to take at the University of Wisconsin. And then we kind of have a dedicated department to renewable energy. So that was really good, and really, helped me along my journey to kind of get to where I'm at. And then, really started off with just building some connections internally at Wisconsin, and then through some alumni, and ultimately landed me at my current workspace, which is at Westwood Professional Services. So, yeah.
I want to back up a little bit. So University of Wisconsin, they're pretty heavy into this utility industry, it seems like. I do transmission design work and had done that for a number of years, but University of Wisconsin always had this tie to the creators of PLS CAD and would always offer these classes on transmission design. So I'm just curious your thoughts, but why is University of Wisconsin such a like this renewable energy utility world kind of focus?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of it just ties to kind of their overall motto and just kind of like progressive thinking, I would say. It's Wisconsin's motto is forever forward, and I think that they're always kind of trying to be on that leading edge of technology, but then just where we can take what we know and apply that and kind of make the best of it moving forward. And so then you kind of get alumni that get built on that, and you make connections like I was saying, and then it kind of like I don't know, really gets that movement started. And I guess that's probably why they they're known for that. So
that's cool. Now, you were a walk-on football player. Is that there too?
Yep. That was at the University.
What was that like?
So, yeah, it was kind of a crazy experience. I personally I wasn't heavily recruited out of high school or anything, and kind of just had an opportunity where I wanted to go there for school first and foremost. But then the football thing really worked out, and it was just, such a big blessing, and met a lot of really great people and built a lot of, the kind of the foundation of who I am through that, and kind of those core values, that now I lean on in my everyday life. So no, it was just an amazing experience, and thankful for all the people I got to meet along the way. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I guess there's some of the skills you learned playing football translated, or what do you see as in relation to the engineering world between those two?
Yeah, I think especially I was a kicker on the team, and so I think one of the biggest things right now too is just effective communication with all people, and internally, externally with clients, and then within Westwood is probably the biggest thing, is just being able to connect with people, and then also just working as a team overall. So that's probably been the biggest carryover that I've took from football, and now using it every day. So
awesome. Well, let's back up a little bit. So you passed the FE exam while you were in school, I'm assuming?
Yep. So passed the FE during I kind of had my last semester. I only had a couple classes, so I passed that during my last semester-ish of class throughout school. So
sweet. Yep. And was it one and done for you on the FE, or did it take?
Yeah. Yep. It was one and done. Thankfully.
Nice.
So it was nice. Yeah.
Nice to have that over with. Well, awesome. So now take us through, I guess, a little bit of your PE journey. So when did you start preparing for that? How long were you out of school? Maybe what are the requirements in Wisconsin to get your PE and such like that, and kind of your own journey?
Yeah, for sure. So, when I joined Westwood, it was gaining your PE was always, a lot of engineers' goals, just kind of around that 4-ish year mark. And I think that the requirements have maybe changed a little bit. I know that previously you weren't even able to take the exam until you had kind of 4 years of experience. And now in Wisconsin, you can take this exam, but you can't apply until you have kind of that 4 years of experience. So, last December, which was kind of around the 3.5 year mark of me being out of school, I started preparing and didn't really even know where to start. Honestly, I started by just searching it on Google, and I think there was either one of your podcasts or something had come up, and I was just kind of doing some research of, hey, what worked for people, timelines, and then kind of just thought that, hey, I feel like a structured plan would really help me out. I like probably a lot of people, you don't really know where to start because you're 3.5 years out of school maybe, and you're like, I don't remember fluid mechanics, I don't remember statics, So I felt like that was kind of just took a little bit of a leap of faith, but obviously with the good reviews that you've had, it definitely kind of pointed me in the right direction. And then so started studying, going through some internal notes December, and then really started heavily studying in March and April. Those were kind of the two big months of studying. And then I believe that I took the exam in early-ish April. So kind of two months of moderate studying and then 2 months of pretty hard studying. So
interesting. So what would you recommend if somebody came and asked you, how long do I need to study for this thing? What would you say?
Yeah, I think that it's something that, it's on a personal level. I probably tend to try and over prepare as much as possible. That's kind of relates back to my background. But I think that, between that 3 to 4 month time frame is good, because those last couple of weeks I found myself definitely, struggling a little bit to stay focused. I'm I just want to take this already. So there's definitely a good middle ground there of I need to get through all the material, but I also don't want to drag this out too long. And I think that like 3-ish month mark of like, pretty intensive studying is kind of a good mark for what I thought. So
yeah, I agree. We always kind of preach a 3-month minimum, and it is an individual thing. You kind of have to figure out what you think you can remember and how far removed from school and what you're actually doing at work. And there's a lot of factors in there, but I think that's great advice.
And that's another good point too, is, what are your commitments outside of just work too? In Wisconsin, I kind of picked that time frame because there isn't a lot else to do during the winter. In the summer, I definitely wanted to be outside more. And so I didn't feel so bad hanging out inside during the winter months to study for that stuff.
So, what depth exam did you take for those listening?
Yep. So I took the civil construction exam.
Okay. So a lot of people say that's a really hard exam. Got a lot of code standards. People feel like it's tricky, that they try to mess with you on estimates and labor stuff. And what are your thoughts on that? What advice would you give to somebody that is coming to you saying, I can't get over the hump of passing this thing because I think construction's a really hard exam?
Yeah. And I guess this is one other thing that I struggle with a little bit because my background is mainly in geotech. I started off on our geotechnical team at Westwood. And, I feel like that's kind of where I had a good foundation, but I also thought it was a bit of a challenge for me because I knew I was going to go more into the project management route. I felt that the construction, depth exam kind of hit on that a little bit more. So just what I would say to other people is, you're probably going to be learning, unless you have a good project management background, you're going to be learning, some new things. And I think the biggest takeaway is just to, really read through the questions, really think about what is all being asked, because a lot of those questions are, they're not, being an engineer, I feel like we have the background to really dissect and solve the problems, but it's just making sure that you really know what's being asked of and how to really try and break down those questions.
Do you feel like the exam leaned a lot on those codes and standards in the questions they asked?
I feel like for the second portion of the exam, it did. The first portion, I thought I felt really prepared for and really just hit on a lot of the upfront reference, the main reference material. And then the second portion definitely kind of dove into those codes and standards.
Awesome. So you discovered Civil Engineering Academy back when you were just Google searching stuff?
Yeah.
So what was the best part? How did we help you? What was the most impressive thing you felt like you thought was helpful?
Yeah, I think I hit on one of them was just having, a very outlined strategic plan. And that really helped, me kind of like not feel so overwhelmed with all the material. It was, hey, this week I'm going to, focus on this section of the exam. And this week I'm going to focus on this section. And then I'll take a practice exam or half the practice exam or something like that on this weekend, and really helped me to formulate a plan. And you guys even had a plan that kind of came with everything, which I thought was super helpful. But I think that one also feature that I tried to utilize is just asking questions, within the chat or within each of the individual modules. And, the responses were pretty quick, I would say, which was such a huge help because obviously you're trying to learn a ton of material, a little bit amount of time. And so you want to have a question, you want to be able to, get it answered and move on to the next thing. And so that was just one other thing I really appreciate about the whole program. So.
Good, man. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of pride ourselves on trying to help people as quickly as possible, whether it's in the course itself, because you can leave comments under videos, or whether it's in our private community that we have. We try to jump on there and help people as quickly as possible. But what was your strategy around practice exams? Did you feel like those were helpful? How many did you take, or how did you tackle that? Did you take them like homework problems? Did you take them timed? And I know on the course we offer a CBT exam. Did that help you as well? So what's your strategy around those?
Yeah, it was super helpful to take. I think another item too that was just super helpful was the CBT exam that you guys offer, but then also like the reference, for kind of like going through that exam through, through the online system, because even on other practice exams that I took, I was using that to kind of, go through the same search functions and get familiar with the reference. And that was, like you had said, is pretty realistic to the exam, I thought, when you get into the actual exam time. So that was super helpful. I guess overall, I think I took a combined, I want to say 4-ish practice exams, but not all in one sitting. So I would break it up, on a Saturday, I would take, the breast section. And then maybe on a Sunday, if it was a study heavy week, I would take the depth section, or, kind of trade off every other weekend for a lot of those between the breadth and the depth, once I felt, like I had a good understanding of most of the material. Because obviously you're still going to be going through some of that material while you're leading up to those exams, but also didn't want to find myself where I was really struggling through a ton of the problems. So.
Interesting. So by the time this episode probably comes out, there's been changes, obviously, right? On April 1st, the exam changed. What do you think about those changes, and what would you tell somebody right now that's like, man, there's nothing out there. How do I prepare for this? How would you do that? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, this is actually something I was going to try and ask you too, because obviously you're trying to help people get prepared for it. But
oh yeah, we're in the middle of revamping it all, so we'll get there. It's like
exactly.
It's like studying for the exam. It's like one bite at a time, but we'll get there.
Yeah, but I think I've talked with people at my work that are preparing for the exam too, and I think for a majority of the case, there's going to be a lot of the same expectations for the exam, right? There's going to be a lot of the same principles. From my understanding, they'll probably get formatted a little bit differently. But I still think that a lot of the previous exam prep will probably still hold true, even from, sources that kind of had the previous breakdown of how everything was. So I think you kind of have to still go in some of that structured organization. And I think that maybe the questions will just be a little bit more tailored to, like you said, the specific depth section. So that would be my advice, especially with something brand new coming out. Unless you can look into the eye of the exam makers, I don't know if there's too much else that you can do. So.
Yeah, and I'll tell you from my experience, because we run Civil Engineering Academy, and when NCES makes a huge change like this, it's hard to steer a big ship that way, but we will eventually get there. We're working on it right now, and we'll have all of those things updated. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Engineering concepts don't change that much. They're changing how they ask the problems, right, with the material that they've got in a spec. But the engineering concepts rarely ever change. So my advice is always, still gather material. You can go grab depth exams, and even breadth exams, just filter it to the questions you're going to have to hit. And I think you'll probably be okay. It's just a matter of still practicing and getting some exams under your belt. So
yeah,
good tips.
Yep. And maybe one thing to add is, a lot of the times when I was either reviewing questions or looking back at exams, for questions I got right or got wrong, or just, overall studying, I would always try and think of questions that maybe weren't asked, but how they could be changed, how properties could be changed within the question, or maybe even how this would tailor into my own workspace. And sometimes it's not always the best correlations, but I felt like that really helped me kind of gain a better understanding overall of, like you said, the concepts and just like how they could possibly change some of the questions and formatting and some of those things. So even just thinking of other questions that could be asked, I think is a really good study tip.
Oh, I totally agree. A lot of people get hung up on the theory, right? There's so many theory questions now that's thrown at you. And I try to tell people so they're not surprised, like, hey, you're probably going to have 10 to 15 in the morning and the same amount in the afternoon. That's a huge chunk of the exam that are just kind of word problems that you have to know. But in your experience, I'm curious, was the theory a surprise? And on top of that, did you have much of the alternative item type of questions?
Yeah, I guess to answer the first question, the theory, I felt I kind of, going through the course, it was kind of emphasized, and I thought that really helped kind of put those questions into perspective, and kind of knew going into it that was going to be an emphasis because, there are all these principles that we go through in all the material. But I think, like I was saying, to gain a true understanding, you have to really be able to know how different properties can change and how that relates to, just how everything works with one another. So to me, I felt pretty good on the theory questions, and I felt like even if there wasn't, a direct equation that you could, go and point at and here's the answer, you could still always find some information on those theory questions and still try and backtrack into some of those. Yeah. So I felt pretty good on that. And I'm sorry, what was the second part?
Oh, I don't know. I was asking about theory and alternative item type questions. Yeah. Like, was there a ton of those? Because there usually isn't. So I'm just curious your experience.
Yeah, no, I didn't have to. I think I maybe had one alternative answer type question. So nothing too crazy there.
It's funny though, because they could ask a ton of those, right? And then it's only like they sprinkle in a few. So it's like you could worry the entire time you're studying that you're gonna have to do some fill in the blank, and it's just there's only one or two. So
yeah,
don't get too caught up on that. Awesome. Well, that was a lot about the PE exam. I know I wanted to kind of hammer that, but I'm glad you found Civil Engineering Academy. If you were to make a pitch to someone why they would choose us over someone else, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the reasons I listed previously, one being the structure and just how how everything was laid out so well, and being able to really break down all the information, that's 3 or 4 or even longer in the years in the past that you may have been, exposed to some of this material. B, I think, having the ability to ask questions and get answers and on a relatively timely basis is kind of the next thing for me that I like to have that feedback. And then C, also just all the different questions that were offered and, the almost real life experience where you can sit down, you're not in a testing room, even though you can make your room however you want it to be. But getting that kind of experience of like, hey, I'm just going to sit down, I'm going to go through these 40 or whatever, questions and really focus my time. That really helped me stay focused during the testing because it's a long test. I mean, 8 hours is a long time to be in one place with one break even, and that was probably one of the most difficult portions of the exam for me personally, was staying focused for those 8 hours. You kind of run on an adrenaline, but that always lasts for so long. So, but overall, those were the kind of big things for me that I think helped me be successful in taking the exam. Cool.
And did it take 10 days to get your results back? And what was the first thing you did when you found out you passed?
I think it did take 10. I think I took mine on a weird date. I think I took mine on a Tuesday, and I think I had to wait. It might have been actually a little bit more because I think they come out on Monday, so I think I had to wait an additional week. But it was a long 10 days, but I think honestly I just started jumping around and couldn't believe it when I first saw it. But it was just a great feeling, a huge lift off your shoulders, but also a great responsibility. That's a quote that kind of always sticks with me too, is, with every opportunity you do gain that responsibility of, serving, acting and really putting your best foot forward to all the designs and all of the things that you're stamping or putting forth out. So it was a great accomplishment, but still going to be a good responsibility for myself moving forward.
That's awesome. Well, I like to ask that because, it is such a relief to see that. It's awesome. It's a great day.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. How do you feel like the PE will help you in your career? Did you get a raise at work? And I guess I want to dive in a little bit more about Westwood and what you're doing there.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess the initial question, I think it definitely helped me take that next step in my career, which did end up translating to some compensation. It wasn't, you pass and this immediately happens, but a little bit of like, hey, we know you took this on, we know you put a lot of time and effort into it. Is that translating to your work? And then it did, and then that kind of led to other things. So that's kind of how that worked out. And then, yeah, I can give a little bit of background just on my time at Westwood. So started working there right out of college, and actually was part of our field services division, working on an active wind construction site right out of college. So literally graduated Saturday, started on Monday, and worked down in Illinois for a while, for 8 months, actively on site, performing various kind of on-site observations, and doing some engineering calculations and working with the contractor for that project, and just kind of helping out in any way possible. And then got back into my original expertise of geotechnical engineering. Got back into doing a lot of those geotechnical calculations, but ultimately kept kind of like bouncing around a little bit. I got a taste and really do love my geotechnical background, but then hopped over into our design team in our solar and wind side, and did that for about the past 2.5 years, and now transitioning into a new role as about a month ago into project management. So I'm assistant project manager now at Westwood, and working specifically with our solar team. So,
well, congratulations. And that is a move up, I'm assuming, for you.
Yeah. It's from where I was at, it's a little bit, I would say, a move up, somewhat lateral, but I knew I wanted to get into the project management field. So helps me kind of gain that background and expertise a little bit quicker than my other tracks. So.
That's awesome. So, as a big picture, a lot of people don't know who Westwood is, but kind of describe what they do real quick.
For sure. Yeah. So Westwood is a comprehensive engineering and surveying company. We have over 30 offices across the United States. And I think our biggest, asset is that we're kind of an all-encompassing firm when it comes to development of not only renewable energy projects, but also more of your standard land projects. And so we're able to help our clients, really go from development of a project all the way to construction with procurement services. And so that's kind of our, I would say niche is we really do have an all-encompassing company, and we're able to provide a lot of different services in-house for clients.
Awesome. And now in your new role as a project manager, are you having to learn new skills, new things that maybe you didn't know as an engineer? I know sometimes we care just about the engineering, but now you're worried about budgets and timelines and scope and all that jazz. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yep. Scope, schedule, budget is always, the trifecta for project management. But yeah, learning things every day, and value the engineering background that I do have, because that comes up pretty much every day too. So having that background is huge when, dealing with either our different teams internally, whether that's design, our site design team, our electrical team, geotech, structural, trying to relay on any, obstacles that we have during projects is huge to be able to talk the talk and then really relay that back onto the client. So yeah, learning things every day, but also using what I know. So it's been fun. It's a good challenge.
Awesome. Well, this has been awesome, VJ. Tons of tips and advice on everything going on in your life, but also the PE exam and what you're doing for a living. I think is a really neat thing. Do you have any tips for aspiring engineers that want to, work in this type of field, this energy field? What tips would you share with them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, specifically in the renewable energy field, is just kind of be open, to trying different experiences and gaining knowledge, because any knowledge that you do gain is just super valuable. You may not think about it at the time, but I've had tasks that when I was, a graduate engineer coming right out of college, it's come back up now that are, huge items that come up for our clients. And for me to be able to be like, oh yeah, when I started, I had this, and this is kind of how we handled this, obstacle into this task. And, clients value that experience and expertise. And so just trying new things and being open, and then also just having a passion and a drive. I think that's a huge thing for this industry is, like I love engineering. I love the technical aspects, but the passion behind the projects is what's going to, keep you motivated in this industry. And so that I think is just a huge aspect of it as well.
Awesome. Well, great tips. I think the world is open as if you're going the PM route. There's so many things you can do, but Westwood is obviously lucky to have you. So that's good stuff. Well, if others had questions about anything we've talked about today, is there a good way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously email works and I can provide that, but I'm also on Instagram, and also on LinkedIn. So there's a couple of avenues, and I can provide those over to you after this. So.
Okay, we'll link those in our show notes. So pay attention to that if you want to talk to each other and get some good advice. So I love it. So thank you for joining me today on this podcast. Appreciate it, and good luck in the future endeavors you have.
Thanks, Isaac. I appreciate it.
All right. See ya.
See ya.